Should Rishi Sunak apologise to the mother of Brianna Jibe?
Of course, this is an appalling tragedy, and our hearts go out to Brianna's parents. But what the Prime Minister was talking about today was absolutely nothing to do with this case. He was talking at the beginning of PMQs about Labour's record of changing their mind on a number of issues.
I understand that he wasn't directly talking about this case, right? I get that. But at the same time, it's also about being sensitive and respectful. You know, was it an appropriate thing to say when the mother of a murdered transgender girl is in Parliament?
Did you see the interview with Esther, Brianna's mum, this weekend? I thought that she was incredible. But what she was talking about with relation to this appalling tragedy was the need for reform of social media, was the need for mindfulness.
I am going to talk to you about that later.
Of course,
but I'm just talking specifically about... So you don't think that Rishi Sunak needs to apologise? Is that what you're saying?
I think the point I was making is that she said that she did not want to make it about trans issues. You know, this was not what this was about, and I think we should respect that, and I do. And absolutely, I know that the Prime Minister would never mean to cause anyone upset or harm. He was just talking about Labour and Labour's, U-turning on a number of issues.
So do you think he did anything wrong at PMQs today?
I don't think it was intention at all to cause any upset or harm.
I'm not talking about intent. Yeah. Do you think he did anything wrong at PMQs?
He wasn't talking about this case.
I know that he's not talking about the case.
And the case.
Do you think that he did anything wrong at PMQs?
The mother of Brianna said this weekend that it was not to do with trans issues, this is to do with social media.
What do you, Laura Trott, think? Do you think Rishi Sunak did anything wrong at PMQs?
No, I don't.
OK. Brianna's father, Peter Spooner, has told Sky News that the comments were degrading and dehumanising and that Rishi Sunak should apologise. What would you say to him? I
mean, nothing more than I've said already. My heart goes out to Brianna's parents. I cannot imagine what they've gone through. But I know that the Prime Minister just wasn't talking about this case.
Now, OK, let's move on. It's a really upsetting case, and I'm sure, as you say, everyone is going to feel this emotion, this kind of heart-wrenching emotion towards the parents of this poor girl. You've done some analysis on Labour's spending. What's that found?
Yes, so this is about Labour's £28 billion unfunded spending spree, which will result in taxes going up across the country. What we've done today is a Treasury costing of one of the specific bits of that, which their warm home scheme, which they said was going to cost £6 billion a year, and it turns out it's going to be £13 billion a year. Just another bit of evidence that they don't have a plan and they don't know how they're going to pay for it.
It might be means-tested, though. That wasn't taken into consideration, was it?
So what was taken into consideration was what they've said publicly. Now, they may want to change their mind about this now. You know, they've been known to do that in the past a few times about a few other things. But we've taken their public statements, and the civil servants have taken their public statements about the scheme.
Civil servants have taken the public statements.
Yeah.
They're the people who drew this up.
Yep.
Do you think that's an appropriate use of civil servants' time? Because this has effectively been used for party politics, isn't it?
I think it's incredibly important. I mean, it's been done a lot in the past. I remember it being done to us before the 2010 election, but it forces people to be honest about the costings of their policies and to be clear about how much it's going to cost the British people, which people watching at home do want to know.
You're right, it has been done before elections, normally just before elections. Does this mean that if you're using civil servants' money in that way, it's going to be in May?
Well, look, no. Absolutely not. And I should also say that it's caused all kinds of hoo-ha when it's been done directly before elections as well. So I think there's always going to be discussions about this, but I think it is really important that we highlight that Labour has an unfunded spending spree in line. It is much more even than they thought it was going to be, and that is going to result in increases taxes for people at home.
I just wonder if there's a wider point here, right? Because the message from you and the Chancellor is you can't trust Labour with the economy, right?
Yeah.
They're fiscally irresponsible, they're going to raise taxes.
Yeah, and they can't even agree on this plan, right? They're having a row about the £28 billion. It's absurd.
Which we will talk about later as well. But look, I guess that my wider point is, a lot of voters will be thinking, hang on, it's you guys that we can't trust to do what you say. You say Labour will put up taxes. Well, the tax burdens are highest since the early 1980s. You say Labour will be fiscally irresponsible. But at the minute, debt is 100% of GDP. So why should voters trust you on the economy? They'll be looking at your record and think, well, we don't trust you to not put up taxes or not to put up the debt burden either.
Look, we've been through a really difficult time as an economy, and we've made some difficult decisions within that, which you have to do when you're in government, right? We spent £400 billion during COVID, £100 billion on the energy support scheme. And we've had to pay that money back. And yes, as a result of that, we've had to put up taxes on some people. But I know we've discussed before, Sophie, that what we've done is emphasise that that is on people with the broadest shoulders. But now, because of those difficult decisions, because inflation is coming down, because of the hard work of the Bank of England and the government, the economy's turning a corner. And what we're emphasising is this would all be put at risk if people at home vote for Labour. So we want to stick with the plan rather than go back to square one.
I want to talk to you a little bit about social media, if I can, and about specifically the use of young people and smartphones. You were talking about the mother of Brenna Giles. That's obviously one of the things that she wants to address. Now, when you were previously on the show, you told me that you're not on Twitter because you don't want to get death threats, rape threats every day, which, seem pretty fair enough to me. Brenna Giles' mother says that under 16 shouldn't have access to social media apps. Do you agree with her?
I think it's a really interesting issue. We've just done the Online Safety Act, which has gone a long way, actually, in making sure that children won't be able to access social media sites. Up to now, you'll know, there's actually age limits on a lot of social media sites. When I do school visits in my own constituency, I actually often ask them to put up their hands if they're on Snapchat or, TikTok. They always all are. So what we're doing, I think, will be a really important step forward. That's just being implemented now. But absolutely, do I think that we should look at what more we can do with this, as we talked about at the beginning, this absolutely appalling tragedy? Of course we should.
I mean, your colleague Miriam Cates, the Conservative MP, wants to go further. She wants under 16s to be banned from having smartphones. Do you think that's right?
I think Miriam's been really brilliant on this issue in general. She campaigned a lot on the issue of porn and young people's access to porn, which is one of the things that we've talked about in the Online Safety Act. I think, look, as I said, this is something where I know everyone at home, all the parents are really worried about it. My kids are too young to be on this now, but it would be really nice if we knew that the internet was a safer space for them. So we should look at everything. But as I said, we've got a really big change which is coming through at the moment, and we should see what impact that will have.
But where are your instincts? Do you think that we should have a bit more regulation and banning social media apps on phones or whatever it is?
My instincts definitely are to more regulation, and that's exactly what is being done now.
You see, one thing that lots of parents might argue, I guess, is the bare minimum would be banning smartphones in schools. But the Department for Education, well, they're just consulting on it, aren't they? They're looking at putting out guidance. I mean, that doesn't seem that much, does it? Well,
schools can do this now. We've put forward guidance that schools can do this now if they want to. I think we're looking at whether we need to kind of go further on that and what more we should do. It's complicated, obviously, because, it puts schools in a position where they're having to potentially search pupils on the way in. There's lots of issues that we need to think about. But some schools have done this very effectively. So it's learning from that and looking at what we can put in place to potentially make this stricter.